involves the motor resonance of mirror neurons, the most applicable term in the field of neuroscience relating to human connection. Short-term isolation is used almost everywhere as a form of punishment for breaches of prison discipline, yet the majority of Western countries have set a limit to the amount of time an individual can be subjected to this type of disciplinary procedure. Most of Europe and Canada have a 15-day limit on the use of solitary confinement, and longer appliance is considered torture and officially prohibited by law. The United States, however, has no such legislation, and an inmate's time frame subjected to segregation can range from days to decades.
It's impossible to put into words. That's where I put in that one part about my anger and a sense of continuous silently screaming, right? I'm not talking about screaming like, oh, I'm talking about if you could put every emotion of the human spirit, of hopelessness, pain, agony, hatred, all these emotions in frustration, while you're locked in this cage treated like some animal, you think that's making that person better? You think that's making everybody safer, right? This is still a human being.
And I want to play part of this from your special. Listen.
There are millions of cheap seats in the world today, filled with people who will never once step foot in that arena. They will never once put themselves out there, but they will make it a full-time job to hurl criticism and judgment and really hateful things toward us. And we have got to get out of the habit of catching them and dissecting them and holding them close to our hearts. We gotta let them drop on the floor. Don't grab that hurtful stuff from the cheap seats and pull it close. Don't pull it anywhere near your heart. And the cheap seats are like, in 22 years of doing this work, I've never seen the cheap seats like they are today.
Yeah. Oh, Twitter is filled up.
You call them cheap seats, I call them haters.
No,
Around the world, more and more people are living alone, which is not necessarily the same as loneliness, which is so bad in the UK right now that the government has created a minister for it.
researchers say suffering through it can be as lethal as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
What is loneliness? How do we define that in kids?
Yeah, and that's important because loneliness is really a subjective feeling, right? So you can be lonely in a crowd.
Right.
So it's not really about kind of having people around necessarily, it's how the individual feels themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a clear distinction to make. So
I just think, I agree with it, this is such a huge problem. It's like solving the problem of humanity. You can't, I mean, loneliness is part of the human condition. You can't just say, well, I'm a minister and somehow loneliness will be solved.
There are significant and very real health risks that are associated with this.
Very much so. Loneliness now is a greater public health concern than obesity and smoking combined. People don't think of loneliness as a problem or something they think, well, I'm sad. They don't identify the loneliness, but it's absolute work. You have to take it seriously.
I think it was quoted in that report that this a personal misfortune is becoming a social epidemic. What are the consequences, do you think, of that as somebody who studies people's minds and the way they work, Jackie?
You mean that loneliness is a
Yeah, it's a personal misfortune, but it's becoming a social epidemic. If it's an epidemic, what are the consequences?
Well, the consequences are more depression, more early death, premature death, more of a sense of polarization in the society that we've been seeing, especially in America, where one side can't imagine even talking to the other side.
This woman duped hundreds of guys who thought they were going on a Tinder date with her. The huge crowd of men looking for love gathered in Manhattan for a chance to woo this beautiful actress.
I have everyone here today to be on a date with me.
But when they showed up, Natasha Aponte told them they'd be battling it out to win her affection.
No beer bellies, no long beards, no bald guys, you gotta go.
Natasha began eliminating the guys left and right, just like on the dating app.
Swipe right, swipe left.
What kind of reaction do you get in that moment?
People behind, in the back were kind of like booing me, and then the people in front were like, what? It was just a mixed reaction because no one has ever had this happen.
Those left standing were even told to show off their athleticism.
2, 3.
Reaction on social media is mixed. Act of genius, goes one tweet. But some comments denounce the prank as degrading and shameful, especially after they realized it was a stunt for a viral marketing company. This guy was so upset, he grabbed the actress's mic.
Excuse me.
Security guards descended on 23-year-old Vashawn Watson. Video obtained by Inside Edition shows the recent college graduate getting grabbed by the neck and forced out of the public area.
Don't touch me like that. I guess the security felt like I got too close. One of them put his hands on me. And he tackled me to the ground.
Rob Bliss owns the ad agency that came up with the phony Tinder date campaign.
The planning process took years, actually, and I think it was important to take all of the Tinder experience and bring it into the real world, because everything that Natasha did was simply what we're already doing online.
Do you feel bad at all that you duped these guys?
I actually am willing to take the punches just because of the meaning behind the message. We're not saying that this is right. We're actually agreeing with everyone and saying this is wrong. So why do we allow it to happen online?
So there you are. Just imagine being in solitary confinement and not even being locked up in prison. And the reason you're in solitary confinement is because you was born with a penis between your legs. You're a man. That's right. So you're pushed into a situation where you grew up in a world that's 1,000 times overly sexualized than it should ever be. Where everything's focused on looksism, looks, from promotions on the job, to the type of job, the quality of job you can get, to the quality of lifestyle you should have or you will have. Two of you will be alone or you won't be alone. And if you'll be alone, it's because you're undesirable. If you can't get a job, but you're at the bottom of the pole on every job you go to, it's because of your undesirable, because your looks ain't fitting the said quote of social engineering. And even those with looks that are average, that are halfway decent looking, as time went by, it got, just like any epidemic, it got worse, and got worse, and got worse, and got worse. And so now you sit here, and you're in a world where, yep, women love women, men love women, that's right. Women love women, men love women. That's right. Women hate men and men hate men. That's where we're at. That's the society we're living in now. And the competition that you just saw. Yeah. One example. But that example of hundreds of men showing up for the chance to date one female tells you this is just one time, one setting. It gives you an idea of the proportion of men in today's society that can't even get one woman in their life for the life of them. And then you have the fraudulent men going their own way movement. You know, the frauds, the phonies, the fakes over there. You have people that come up here and the so-called men going their own way, okay, who are such hypocritic fools, young guys, 20s, 30s, they just think they're so intelligent and smart that they can outsmart everybody. And they come up and say, I'm a man going my own way because I'm so tired of being abused by a female. And then turn around and brag about all the sex they're getting, all the times they get laid. All the females just throwing themselves at them. Which, of course, is complete nonsense. A complete lie. No truth whatsoever. Because they don't want you to know that they're the guy in the first video in solitary confinement. That's right. They don't want you to know that part about them because it's depressing. It's easier to hide it, isn't it? Yeah. But there's the real life right there of a man. And you've seen the epidemic on loneliness, okay? And you see where, because we have women now who have chose to be alone. That's right. And then you got elderly people. They love to use this one. The elderly. The woman who had her kids and her children and had a family and had a life, most of all of her life, was never ever alone, who's now at the age that she wouldn't be having another partner because of her age, and her partner's passed away, and so she's alone, and oh my gosh, how awful for her. What an epidemic that's going on for these poor females that are alone. No, it's not the poor female that's alone. See, the real truth is in your face. It's smack square right in your face. How many men showed up on one Tinder experiment? What did they prove with only one experiment? Guys came in from all over the country. Some of these guys traveled 2,000-3,000 miles just for the chance to compete against another man for the validation of a vagina, of a woman. Why do I say of a vagina? Because everybody's minds, men and women alike, and you're all going to deny it, but it's true, is over-sexualized. And your whole focus is on sex, looks, and monetary gain. Sex, looks, and monetary gain. Sex, looks, and monetary gain. That's right. And it used to be like a 20-80 rule in the dating scene. But anymore, I'm beginning to believe it's like a 15 or a 10. Yeah. So how about a 10-90 rule? Yeah. 90% of the females chasing 10% of the men. Not seeing anything wrong with that behavior. Leaving 90% of the men to be in solitary confinement for the rest of their life. To feel like this prisoner feels. But they'll have to worry about the bars. Because they got the same confinement going on when they're free on the outside world. And they're not locked behind a door in a prison. They don't have to be locked behind a door in a prison. They're already in a prison. They sure are. See, the prison is simple. Men hate other men because men look at other men as competition, as a game, a sport, an arena, rather than as human beings with feelings, emotions, wants, and needs. And why did this happen? Because we over-sexualized our world. We social engineered our world against each other, turned each other on each other, and we placed one gender above our own selves, creating a gigantic epidemic of narcissistic, entitled, self-entitlement issue females that become psychopaths from not having one of their wants because their whole life they've been pampered to that want. Think about what I've already told you. The little boy and little girl grow up together, sister, brothers, friends, what have you, little kids growing up. The little girls getting the message from their television set and their books and their magazines and what have you as they grow up that men are vile, men are monsters. That's right. The men are predators, men are killers. Okay, men are dangerous. They get the message to hate men. Hate men, hate men, hate men. And the little boy, he learns that he's a predator to be. That he's vile, he's a villain. He's everything that's wrong. That's right. And that's the message he gets. And then he's taught that he has to, if he wants to get a female in his life, he has to be successful. Lots and lots of the tool. And he has to have great looks. That's right. And a great personality. That's right. He has to be an illusion, a mirage created by Hollywood. Because the female has to see him in this light. Because we all think like a television set. We think like our movie. We act like our movie. We dress like our movie. Yeah. And psychologically, in the back of your brain, this is exactly what you do. And so here we are in a world where I showed you a man who's in solitary confinement in a country that has no limit to how long you can be in solitary confinement. And then I showed you men that don't have to be in prison to be in solitary confinement. Because we are literally in a world where women love women and men love women. Women hate men and men hate men. And so why would a man want to contribute and work and help build buildings and roadways and keep up your infrastructure and farm and grow crops and raise cattle? That's right. And harvest crops and do everything needed to contribute to a society, to contribute to a society that has disregarded him and thrown him away. Why would the man want to pamper to a female and say, poor her, poor her, poor her? That's right. And make sure she has a comfortable life when this is what we're looking at? When there's this many men that's in solitary confinement without the bars, without the guards, that's been pushed out of life deliberately, on purpose. Why would you even want to be a man? You wonder why we got 60, what is the last time I looked, 50-something, 60 genders? Which is insanity, completely insane. No way. Could it ever be? But then again, on the other hand, why not? If you got a whole bunch of genders you can pick from other than being a man, I guess I would want to pick to be another gender too. Why would you want to be a man? Who would want to be a man in today's society? Think about that. You know, I talked about this topic with Steve Hoker last night. And, you know, he's so correct in a lot of stuff that Steve says. He's so spot on, like always. So correct. I won't take that away from him. You know, I have my thoughts, he has his, but the one thing that we both do is we acknowledge the real truth of what's going on. And so in light of talking with Steve last night, I wanted to put together what you just saw, and I wanted to send this message out. And I want you to understand, there's a good reason for men not to want to be men no more, to pick another gender, to walk away from a female, but I'm not talking about MGTOW, because see, MGTOW's been destroyed. It's completely destroyed. It's completely fraudulent. It's filled full of phonies and fakes and liars and deceivers who thought they could take the definition and flip it to their own want and just create it to mean whatever they want it to mean, and that was justifiable. Who come up and lie and try to convince you they're not lying when they know they're lying. That somehow you don't share the same planet with them. Somehow they're so much smarter than you. Yeah, they're so much smarter, all right. This is how smart mankind's become. We've become so smart that we create our very own killers. And we kiss too dumb to see that's what we're doing. We think we can treat anybody any way we damn well like, with no consequences. Because you done lost your damn minds. You've lost care, compassion, heart, everything that's good and everything that's right has been completely driven out of you people. Now it's all a sport, a competition, a game, an arena. And the females are loving it, as you can see. She had no problem with dukesing over 100 guys. And it was so easy for her to do. And get them to drive miles and miles so that they could compete against another guy for the chance to be treated lower than dirt. So guys look at each other as competition for the validation of somebody who's going to dump all over you just so you can say, look, I got squatted on too. Oh, look at me. She wiped her feet on my face after stepping in cow manure. That makes me more of a man than you. I know I'm pissing you off, right? But that is the mentality, isn't it? And you know it is. So I had to stand with Steve and say, why would you want to be a man? Maybe if you became transsexual, you'd have a better life being a girl, wouldn't you? Yeah. You'd have a better life being any gender other than a man. So living in solitary confinement without the bars, feeling like the man told you at the very beginning of the video, without the bars. That's what it's like to be a man in today's society. And women will never get it. because they help to contribute to this very entity that's going on. Okay, they really do. They help to contribute to it by turning their head, looking the other way, never being honest, never acknowledging the truth, because it's about poor me, poor me. I mean, anymore, being a victim is, I mean, that's attention. You people don't care if it's negative or positive as long as the attention's coming to you. To you, poor me, isn't that right? Yeah. So the majority of women will turn their back to this, turn their head to it, look the other way, deny it, make up lies, pretend they don't see. They'll do anything to avoid. Avoid, 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 avoid. And the guys, they'll continue to play it like it's a sport, an arena, a competition. And if you speak up against a corrupt female, you might scare all the women off. You're a woman hater at this time in your life. And all you got to do is open your eyes and look at what I just showed you. There's the truth. The real truth. Right in your face. A very sick, sick world we're living in. It really is. I don't know how you think you're ever going to correct anything. How you could ever even expect to fix your own life. Because until people really take their heads out of their you-know-what and start having care for one another again, stop playing everything as a game and a competition, and until the mentality of another man is not looked at as by another man as competition for female, and until a female stops being a narcissist, self-entitled psychopath, it'll stay the way it is. Women love women. Men love women. Women hate men, and men hate men. Being born a man is like being born the most hated, vile species on the planet known anywhere. You're better off to be transsexual, queer, gay, whatever, just don't be a man. Because to be a man is a disgrace. Isn't that right, ladies?